Welcome to Season 3 of Digging Deep with Dr. Christie K. Thank you so much for being here and for choosing to spend a few moments of your day with me. These shows this season were thoughtfully curated with you in mind to inspire, challenge, encourage, and invite meaningful reflection around life, leadership, purpose, faith, and legacy. As you listen, I invite you to lean in. Take what speaks to you and allow the conversation to meet you right where you are. If today's episode resonates, please take a moment to like, share, and even subscribe. Your support helps these conversations reach others who may need them just as much. Now, let's dig deep together. Some wounds don't come from what happened yesterday. They come from what we never had the language, safety, or support to process years ago. Today on Digging Deep with Dr. Christie K, I'm joined by the amazing Dr. E, or Dr. Estrelita Bruce, whomever is referring to her, a trusted mental health professional whose work centers on healing unresolved trauma, navigating grief and loss, managing anxiety and stress, and integrating faith into mental and emotional wellness. This conversation is honest, bold, and necessary. We're talking about the kind of healing that requires courage, the kind that asks us to stop surviving and start becoming whole. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, emotionally exhausted, spiritually conflicted, or unsure where to begin, this episode is for you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying yes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking me. I'm always very honored to talk about just mental health and wellness, and definitely grateful to be here with you.
Yeah. So why? So out of all the things that you could be talking about, why is this so important to you?
Well, it's important not just because it's needed, but for me, it is truly a calling.
Okay.
Right. So it is a call to help the wounded, the emotionally brokenhearted, the broken-spirited. One, because I've personally experienced that in my life, and I'm a huge advocate for education as well. So I understand that God's calling integrated with just my experience in life. It made sense as to why He put me on that path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know I've had listeners when they've seen me out and about, I'm always talking about calling and passion and things. And they say, well, how do I know that it's a calling? Or how do I know it's just something that I just love to do? Can you help them understand from your perspective the differences?
Yeah. So honestly, I didn't really realize it was a calling. But if I were to look back over my life before I got the label and title as a mental health professional, people would just often come and tell me all their business. And I was a really good secret keeper. And I have always been very sensitive emotionally to people. And I've learned how to comfort. It just came very natural. So the thing that comes very natural to you that you feel perhaps is not as natural to someone else, usually that could be an indicator that God uses what we're naturally good at, that infuses into our calling. So for me, this is something I've always done, and it's just a matter of like having that official title to it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the statement that just because you can bake a cake does not mean you need to open a bakery?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So let's talk about those people who are listening who can identify with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I can feel it. I'm sensitive to it. They have a 9-to-5. How do they know that they should take those feelings that you've expressed that you had and make that into their career and jump out on faith? Like, how do they know when to pivot?
Well, if you're saying that it's a calling and purpose, one is definitely prayer, right? This was not a one-time God came to me like through a cloud. It was over years where over the years where I felt the impression to do something more. So from an educational standpoint, you have to hone in on the skills. You have to understand that just because it's something that you have been perhaps called to do, that it requires you to take the necessary steps to get prepared. Like you said, I can bake a cake. Oh, I'm very passionate about this, but you just can't go and open a bakery without understanding business, without understanding that there are multiple cakes. You have to understand the temperature that's appropriate to open, a restaurant or business, or bakery. And so it requires all those things. So there's the backdrop to a purpose and calling.
Yes.
And what that requires is the education, the prayer, the guidance. So yeah, that's what I would say would be the major difference.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I love how you broke that down, because those who are listening are like, okay, I need some benchmarks to know if I'm headed down the right, path.
Yeah.
There is so much research that should go on as you're pivoting to step out on faith.
Right.
Some people are like, you know what? God told me last night to do it and I'm gone.
Yes.
Unless that was his word to say, stop right now and do it.
Yes.
Then, and most times I don't believe God is doing it. God believes in us preparing. He prepares a place for us.
Yes.
You need to prepare a place for what he's going to have for you.
Right. Right.
And I know a couple of people that came home and was like, you know what? I quit. I said, okay, well, what's the plan? Well, I don't have a plan yet. What? That's confusion. God is not the author of confusion, so know the difference. Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question too.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Bruce, or do you go by Dr. Bruce or Dr. E?
Dr. E.
Dr. E.
Yeah, Dr. E.
Many adults are walking around with wounds from childhood they never had permission to address. How does unresolved childhood trauma show up later in life? But before you answer that, let's talk about permission. Explain to us what permission looks like. Is it something that's internally? Is it externally? What does that mean, permission?
So give themselves permission, right? If you haven't been taught to give yourself permission to feel, to process, to express, you live life as it's normal not to do that, right? So if you've experienced anything traumatic or a hardship in life, what they call adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. If you haven't been taught that through that adversity, that the education as to how it impacted you, then you won't know that you actually have permission to even process it in the first place.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So now that we've set that foundation, how does unresolved childhood trauma show up later in life?
Oh, that's such a loaded question.
Okay.
It shows up in multiple ways. One, it shows up in how we view ourselves, how we view our world, how we view people and relationships. So it shows up in broken relationships. It shows up in if you've experienced any type of abandonment or rejection. It shows up in perfectionism. It shows up in your need to be a people pleaser. Even in relationships, you can begin to compromise your needs because you never knew or gave yourself permission to even explore or even embrace that your needs are important. So perhaps you were in a space in childhood where you had to survive. And so what does it mean to think about yourself when all you're doing is trying to live day to day? And so what happens is when they become children, obviously when they become adults, which I only see adults in my practice, I see them, not necessarily knowing how to give themselves permission to feel because they've never had that space to do it, right? So it really shows up in, like I said, the way that they do life, the way that they handle their money, the way that they communicate. So it shows up in so many different ways.
The one that stood out for me personally is when you said perfectionism. And I truly believe, looking back, not just as an entrepreneur, business owner, but as a mother, as a divorced person, all of the ways I related to things or reacted to situations, like it has to be a certain way. If it's not this way. And finally, my mom, who's a therapist as well, she looked at me, she said, who said it had to be your way? Who said that another way is not an effective way as well? If it's going to affect me, it has to be this way. But you're missing the blessing in putting up boundaries according to how people should relate to you. Of course, they should respect you. But the way you're relating to people and things, you're boxing yourself in because people are not going to always conform to how you want it to be. And if they do, it's not going to be authentic.
Right.
So you're going to lose both sides. And so she was like, you are caught up in this sense of perfectionism according to what you think is perfect.
Right.
But you are relating with other humans. So you have to be able to ebb and flow through situations. And when she unlocked that mindset for me, my business began to flourish even more. My daughter, I had a conversation about with Kennedy, and I apologized to her because I was like, listen, I now see there are ways that I related to you, expecting a way, not allowing you to be the child, soon to be adult that God was calling you to be.
Right.
And so once we had that conversation and she realized I wasn't being malicious with how I was responding to her, like, I love you. I'm a human too. I'm learning too. Our relationship has changed,
that's
beautiful. For the best. It's really great now. And so it was placed on my heart now to mention that because there may be people like, why are things not going the way that I think they should go? Maybe because you're choking the process.
Oh, absolutely. And when you said that, like, perfectionism comes from your need to control, right? Is that because perhaps you've experienced, like, perfectionism also can come from a fear of rejection, right? So if it's not done the way that I need it to be done, that's when I'm trying to take control back, perhaps because something was out of my control. So my way of gaining control is to do it a certain way. Or when you say perfectionism is definitely something that's unrealistic, but when you think about every human being, it's unrealistic for us to be perfect, right?
Right.
So, but if you can make that switch from perfectionism to excellence means that I'm giving my all. This is all that I have to give, and I'm satisfied with that. It also minimizes your perhaps fear of rejection as well, right?
Yes.
Because it's just our need to feel accepted in a lot of ways. The opposite of rejection is acceptance. So if I show up perfect, people are going to accept me.
Yes.
They're going to love me.
Yes.
Right. There's no flaws there. But that is reflective of, as you mentioned, in your experience, this is just how things have to be. And I think it serves you well because you do show up in this, it's an excellent way, but internally the fear is present. So you have to deal with the internal, things behind it. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to embrace what Mom said.
Yes, I did. And I don't have the pressure on me anymore. When I engage with my staff, I talk with them like, this is my expectation. And in my mind, I know that I've communicated, and I know that they have the excellence mindset as well. And I say, Lord, however this works out, I have given my directive. They've verbalized, they understand it, and I step away.
Yes.
I don't keep my hand on it.
Right.
And when I tell you, it has freed me emotionally and health-wise. So thanks to you and thanks to my mom.
Yes.
Pain. Why do so many people normalize pain instead of just dealing with it and healing from it?
Because one is familiar, right? One of the hardest things to do, I always say this, the hardest person that you ever have to face is yourself. It's not another person, it's yourself.
Yeah.
And so if I have lived in an environment or lived in a space where I'm used to pain, the thought of going outside of that is really scary. So that means that I have to also open up myself up to change, right? So it's normalized because there's a fear of change, and it's normalized because perhaps people often feel that there's no other way, right? So from a I would say educational standpoint, if you're introduced to options like it does not have to be this way, then that opens the door up to really ask yourself, okay, do I want to continue in this? And for someone to say, like, that's not normal, that opens the door to, wow, that's not normal. That's all I knew, right? So I think a lot of people normalize it because they think that that's the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of a type of pain that people normalize, and then how they could move past that?
Yeah, so I'm actually thinking about a client I had some years ago, right? I worked with this client for weeks, and they seemed to normalize like a chaotic life, right? Meaning there was always something going on in their relationships. There was always, even if you were given them options to, hey, this is a different perspective, they would lean more towards the negative perspective, right? But I remember in session one time, I felt like we had a breakthrough, and this client was given the option, well, what if you did this? I can see in their face like a light bulb moment came on, like, wow, like I didn't think about that. But then quickly they retracted to, but I don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? So they were used to the chaos. They were familiar with the chaos. They were comfortable in the chaos. So that's an example of someone normalizing and staying in it.
Yeah. Because it takes work.
Yes.
To stay out of what you're familiar with.
Yes.
And some people, including myself at some point in my life, just, I'm like, I'm used to just dealing with this. So that means I have to do more on top of what I'm already doing every day. I'll just deal with it.
Absolutely.
And this is an interesting example I'm going to share, being transparent. And this really helped me.
Yeah.
So I've always had bad feet. Okay. I have like a corn on my toe that I've had since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm 47. I literally, and people that know me, this is no secret, and I'm not ashamed. I literally have been dealing with this pain for 30 plus years.
Wow.
Walking in, that's why I don't wear heels as much anymore. And when I do, I'm like, get me out of them. My feet are throbbing, all the things, right? So my parents have been telling me for years, as an adult, you need to go to a podiatrist.
Right.
And just see.
Yeah.
And so I went to a podiatrist. You know how somebody tells you to do something, you half do it?
Yep.
Just to kind of say, it's my parents, I want to obey, let me go.
Yep.
And the podiatrist was like, well, all you got to do is just get whatever the procedure is, just get the corn taken off, and we'll give you some stuff and keep it off. But you're going to have to do the work to keep it off. I was like in my late 20s at this time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not about to do that. I'm used to it. And he was like, your shoes are actually probably too big because you're overcompensating for this. So you're probably going to have to get new shoes, all the things, I'm like, I don't have time for that. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I was used to the pain.
Used to it.
About 3 years ago, it became unbearable.
Wow.
To the point where I'm in tears coming off of services because I'm wearing heels, my feet are throbbing, all the things. I go to another podiatrist. He said, Christy, all you have to do is get this procedure done. It takes literally 5 minutes. Girl, he did the procedure. He cut a small piece of the side of my foot, no blood or anything. I went to break dance out of there.
Not break dance.
And I said, I could have done this 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And my feet have been amazing ever since. And I literally sat in my car and I just cried. I said, you literally have been taking yourself through drama and pain for no reason. And it's the same thing with what we do in our everyday lives. We're used to our kids not doing the things that we need them to do, and it will take an extra 30 minutes or a couple of weeks to train them to do something different.
Yeah.
We're used to allowing our managers and our staff to just do whatever they want. It's better just to deal with it. Our
Yeah.
spouse is talking to us a certain way, or us eating a certain food that we know makes us sick every time, but we don't we don't want to find the solution.
Right.
And all you have to do is pivot.
That's it.
Just do the work and pivot, and you never have to worry about that ever again as long as you do the work.
That was such a great example.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, because it makes me think, and this is what I often tell like my clients too, right? I tell them, like, think about this. You're stronger than you think that you are. You've dealt with pain for 30 years.
Yes.
So just imagine if you give yourself permission to receive healing on the other side. 30 years
30
in pain.
years.
The other side of that is healing and freedom.
Yep.
You're stronger. That you've already dealt with the hard stuff.
Right.
This, yes, it takes a lot of courage to like you said, to sit on that table and let them do the procedure. But I'm telling you, as they say, on the other side of your fears is your breakthrough.
Is your breakthrough.
It is your breakthrough.
From your feet to your mind.
To your feet. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That is so good. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. How does trauma impact our body, not just the mind, and why is that connection so important to understand?
Okay, so I, as a faith-based therapist as well, I integrate that into my professional counseling, but that's where I started, right, as a faith-based therapist. And I learned in 1 Thessalonians 5:23, it says that may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless until the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, right? So looking at that, spirit, soul, and body, we are a tripartite being. So we are made up of 3 parts. Our spirit is our God conscious. Our soul is our mind, will, emotions. I call it our thinker, chooser, feeler, right? And then our body houses the spirit and the soul. So we are impacted in those 3 areas. I know people say mind, body, and soul, but mind is part of the soul. What about the spirit, right?
Okay.
So if you think about when you experience something traumatic, it may not physically hit you. It could be something emotional, definitely, right? But because something is impacting us emotionally, like within our souls, if you don't do anything with that, that gets stored up in the body.
Yeah.
Because the body houses the spirit and the soul. So our body remembers. There's a book out there that talks about the body keeps count, and it talks about how trauma impacts the body, and our bodies remember. Our cellular DNA remembers things. There is so much research that talks about generational PTSD. You don't have to directly experience it, but those before you, it somehow gets passed down, or DNA wise, biologically gets passed down to you. You start to feel things in your body, even though that you didn't directly experience it, right? So when there is trauma that happens, I mean, the number one cause of death in the United States is heart disease and cancer, right? So cancer can be impacted by stress, right? Stress causes increased blood pressure. It can do so much to the body and the heart. So that's how trauma can impact the body. That's why it's important to understand that, you know, once we fully understand how trauma impacts us mentally and emotionally, we cannot understand it just emotionally and mentally without including the body. That's why it is important, because it's life-saving.
Yes.
It can be life-saving.
And you mentioned faith-based.
Yes.
And so you said you started that way. You're still that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what if someone says, I don't have faith, I don't believe in faith, I don't know what faith is, I am not saved. What is your response to them if they want to come to you?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I've had individuals who may not necessarily have a faith or even spiritual experience, right?
Okay.
But you talk about psychology and counseling, it deals with the soul. You can still offer support and tools for people who may be suffering emotionally. Like they still need tools to manage, even though they may not necessarily have a faith foundation.
Okay.
So it's okay. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not there to either impose my beliefs or, or values on them as well. But if you need help without the faith perspective, get it. It's
Good.
okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it for someone that does a self-assessment and says, I feel fine, everything's good, I don't have any issues, is it best for them to still have some type of therapy to kind of to maintain that?
Yeah.
Or should someone wait until there's a concern to reach out?
Oh, definitely maintaining.
Okay.
I think everybody in the world should have a therapist. Just like you have to go to they recommend you go to the doctor for physical in your body checkups,
Yeah.
right? Why not emotionally? Why not mentally? Your brain is an organ, right? So it's okay to check in, like you said, that's self-assessment. Yeah, I'm okay. But you going to sessions is just a way for you to check in and make sure that you can continue to be okay, right? What was it saying a while back? I mean, I hate to use the word crazy as a therapist, but where they talk about people go to therapy because they're crazy, I often say, like, no, people go to therapy to prevent from going crazy. Okay.
That part.
So it's a preventative maintenance plan, so to speak.
Got it.
So yes, everyone should have a therapist.
Okay.
Yes.
So everyone should have a therapist. Tell me, how does that work for the therapist, for you?
Yeah.
And, how do you, as a woman, a mother, a wife, friend, all the things, how do you keep yourself grounded to be able to serve others?
Yeah.
Have you found yourself in your career, neglecting yourself? And how did you come from that?
Oh gosh, yeah. That's why I heavily focus on self-care now, because I had a real issue with self-care. I used to really work, as they say, burning the candles on both ends, make myself sick. It wasn't until I'm like, okay, I'm making being sick a lifestyle. So it wasn't until God had to really just like gather me and say, hey, like you especially if you're in a career or you have a job where you're constantly serving others, you have to make time for yourself. So for me, it was learning how to set boundaries with myself, meaning, okay, I only have so much capacity within a day. I'm not only serving others in my career, I'm serving the people most important to me in my home, as a wife, as a mom. So if I don't set those boundaries with myself, then I'm going to continue to extend myself. And I'm also telling people that it's okay to, you teach people how to treat you. So if that's what I continue to give to people, they're going to expect that out of me as well.
Right.
So
right.
It's just a constant cycle of not taking care of myself. So resting, obviously, like really taking even if it's a day out of a month to absolutely do nothing, seeing my therapist regularly, even if it's once a month, to check in, because life is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need that support to replenish you.
Yeah.
So that's how I continue to self-care.
Okay. For those who are listening intently, because this is an amazing conversation, they're in motherhood, they're in a marriage where they've never set boundaries. And as we evolve as humans, and social media is actually starting to kind of shift where it's focusing a little bit on self-care. There's some stuff that's been put out there, I'm like, I don't know about that. But for those who are seeking, how to care for myself. And I tell people all the time, you can easily spend all of your money
Yeah.
on, because people think you have to go do massages and have to do
Right,
manicures
right.
and all that. Find things in your home, from your favorite tea that you sit in a dark room or outside and sip. There are levels of self-care.
Right.
You don't have to break the bank, first of all,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
self-care.
True.
For those who are like, I don't even know how to have the conversation with my child, with my spouse.
Yeah.
What's the first step? Once they make the decision, I need to set boundaries to care for myself. How can they relay that to those who they love, so the people they're relaying it to don't feel neglected and they don't feel slighted because they're changing their communication with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. One is, I always say, setting boundaries takes a lot of courage, especially with people who are not used to your boundaries. So if you're in a place where you're discovering, hey, I need to create these boundaries, one is understand the boundaries that you need to establish with yourself. So identify the boundaries that you need to set. Meaning, okay, if I'm giving so much of myself to others, I need to understand what my capacity is for that day, right? Okay, I'm not feeling all the way 100%. So that means that you know, if my husband and my child are pulling at me 100 times per day, then I have to assess myself and say, well, I can only give them 50% of that, right? So that's one, establishing what your capacity is. Okay. And then, as you mentioned, being able to communicate that with them. It can be a hard conversation because you don't know how they're going to perhaps take it. But just be honest and say, hey, there's only so much that I can do today. You know, I want to continue to give you guys what you need, but perhaps I can only do 2 things. And I'll use myself as an example. My husband will know, like we do this for each other, and I'm so grateful for him, is that he can even see sometimes when I'm like really tired and I may have the duty to take our daughter, let's just say, to soccer, right? She's a soccer player. He's like, baby, I got it. So I don't have to say anything, right? But but if you're just establishing that, is being honest and saying, hey, this is what it goes back to needs. What do you need?
What do you need?
What do you need? Yeah. And what I need is rest. What I need is to not have anybody pull on me right now.
Yeah.
So you have that conversation with them out of honesty and really pray and hope that it goes well. And if not, I would just say give it some time, because they're learning a different part of you. Yeah. If that's not how you've always shown up.
Yeah. You know, one thing I've learned as a divorced person and as a mother to a 19-year-old in college is the importance of transparent, authentic conversation. Having it in a space where I don't feel anxious. I've prayed about it. I've settled my mind. I'm not upset. My sole purpose is for the person I'm talking to receive what I have to say. Yeah. And when I learn to get into that space, I communicate with everybody like that as much as I can. Yeah. And whenever I miss the mark, I course correct. I'll go back and say, you know what? I said that wrong. You know, and so now that I have those conversations, it's amazing how people are like, okay, no problem. And I'm like, all I had to do was just tell you exactly what I wanted, and there's no pushback. Like, no, like you said what you wanted. They can either do it or not. Yeah. Most times, because the people I interact with genuinely care about me, they'll do it. Yeah. And I literally can walk away continuing to be the whole person that I prefer to be. And they understand my intentions, and they listen. I feel so much lighter on a day-to-day basis having conversations like that.
And you know what is the beauty about that is your own self-awareness. Because you've gotten to a place to where you understood what you need in order to communicate your needs with others. Yeah. And what you needed was to be grounded, to have a sense of surety or sureness about like yourself, the internal peace that you've gained before having those conversations. You had the prayer time before having those conversations. So it starts with, I think about when you are flying, right? They say if in the event of an emergency, you put the mask on yourself first
Yeah.
before you do it for someone else, because you can't do that. You end up passing out if you don't put it on yourself.
Right.
So you've already established that lifestyle for yourself, and that level of self-awareness. I always say, the more that we increase in self-awareness, we choose differently. We do. We choose differently. We choose better. And because you know what you need, you go out into the world whole and healed, and they get that whole and healed version of you. And that's why it works so well.
That's why it works. You know, I've been in the funeral service industry 28 years.
Wow.
And ownership for 10. And I have come across so many grieving people.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that grief does not necessarily mean they've lost someone to death.
Yeah.
Grief can come in so many different forms. What are some forms of loss people don't realize that they're grieving from that is potentially keeping them from being the whole person that they could be?
Yeah. So first, grief can be the grief of expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just say you have a parent that is supposed to be a parent that shows up, and you desire that. And unfortunately, that parent cannot give you what you feel like you needed.
Yeah.
They're still alive, but you have to grieve the expectation of the parent. You want them to show up the way that you need them to. That's grief. Even the grief of, you know, a loss of any kind, right? Job, relationships. It can be a pet. It can be those specific things. But even like when you talk about relationships, right? That type of loss. It's not just, and this can apply to death as well. It's not just, hey, I've lost this person physically in my life. I've lost the everyday life with this person. I've lost the memories. I've lost the special things that we've shared. So I think about past things, right? The experiences that we had, but I'm also grieving the future.
Yeah.
I'm also grieving what potentially could have been, right? When you talk about experiencing a divorce, I've experienced that as well, right? And I remember when I experienced that, it was like, you know, obviously the person is alive, but it was like dead men walking. You're still alive, but I'm having to experience the death of that relationship.
Right.
So it can come in multiple forms. So yeah, just like you said, not just outside of death, it's in many ways.
Yeah. I remember I used to binge watch the Hoarder
Yeah,
shows.
yeah.
And one episode, this lady was saying, I keep everything because she keeps everything because when she was a kid, her mom took her blanket and never gave it back. And that's how she slept. That was her comfort. And the therapist that was on the show had to let her know, your mother probably took it not to be mean, but because she didn't want you to be dependent on something. She wanted you to be because she was the only child. She wanted you to be independent. And if you can't go to sleep without this blanket and you're taking it everywhere, and she was like, one thing, it's full of germs.
Yeah.
So your mother thought that she was helping you.
Yeah.
And she was like, but she didn't tell me that. And so it was like this rabbit hole the therapist went down with her.
Yeah.
It was like, listen, parents are humans too. They make mistakes.
Absolutely.
But you're literally destroying your life over a decision that was made on your behalf 40 years ago, not even knowing the foundation of that.
Yep.
And so she was like, you're grieving a scenario that probably wasn't even what you put in your mind.
Right.
And so, and that was at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And when they cleaned out her house, and by the time the house was cleaned up and they went through the therapy, the woman said that conversation about her blanket and her understanding that it probably wasn't that, literally unlocked her mind. And she was almost 60 years old. So that's a long time. So that's another aspect of grief.
Absolutely.
You know, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
So it really caused me to sit down and think about all the potential conversations I had with my family when I was a kid, and my mom and I did some hypnotherapy, we did some Reiki sessions, and I just started to work through and reframe those conversations. Instead of making up in my mind what it was, I went back to some of them and they were like, girl, no, I remember that I was having a bad day and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, well, as a kid, I thought that you were just mistreated me. That's why I've had a sour taste in my mouth about you my whole life. She was like, girl, please. I was going through a divorce. You didn't know that because you were a kid. It wasn't any of your business. Anyway, so all of that is forms of grief that we're dealing with, sometimes unnecessarily.
Yeah, definitely unnecessarily. And I'm glad that like you said you went back to those spaces to revisit, to gain the understanding.
Yeah.
Because we can carry so much and not think that what we're carrying is like we may deem it as insignificant, or we hold on to the belief that this is what it is, versus seeking out, you know what, it could be something else.
Yes.
Right? It could be something else. And 6 times out of 10, it is something else.
Yeah, it is something else.
It's something else.
With you being so, I say prominent on social media, we're friends, so I see the things that you're doing. You know, how do you think social media has affected mental health of those of us who did not come up in social media? Not about these kids now because it's normalized for them. Like they're like, whatever, this is just their life. Right. But I'm thinking about you and I, people in our age group, where I didn't even have my first cell phone until I was 23.
Right.
I didn't have my first email address until I was in college.
Exactly.
So how is social media affecting those of us who did not come up in social media?
Okay, well, I would speak personally. To me, it's a distraction. One, it's become a distraction in a lot of ways. But also, it's kind of like this. You know, too much of anything is not good for us, right? So you do have to create boundaries and parameters as much as you can, because our devices are usually in our hands. We can wake up and don't even realize the device is in our hands. So it's really learning the balance of getting back to what really fuels you. And then you can use social media as a way to promote like your business. It really spreads the message, quickly. So we can use it to our advantage. But some of the disadvantages is really finding out what those disadvantages are for you. Like you said, those differences. And for me, it's like, okay, if I know that I'm on social media more than I'm reading, it's not been a good day. Like I have to put some things in place. I have to delete all my apps, perhaps put my phone like in another room. So you have to I always say this, you have to do the things that help you. So even though we're not used to it, it's a part of our lives now, but that doesn't mean that we have to shift it. Integrate it in our lives in such a way that it overtakes our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had anyone interact with you that see you on social media and see you in person and respond to you negatively? And answer that, and I'll tell you why I'm asking that.
Respond to me negatively? No.
Okay.
I haven't had that experience. I'm trying to think. But off the top of my head, no.
Yeah. And maybe negative is not the right word. And let me preface it with...
Okay.
So I'll have people, they'll come up to me like they know me. Hey, Christy, like, hey. Oh, I see you on social media with your makeup on and all the things. I've seen you several times in public. You don't wear makeup, and why don't you, you don't have, you don't carry the bags and all of that. Like they have their thought of me on social media, the perception of me on social media. But when they see me in person, they're expecting me to be this same person.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, listen, there is nobody on social media that is 100% the same in public. Now, there's a difference between putting on social media and being authentic. If you see me in my makeup, it's because I'm leaving an event or on my way to an event, but I don't even own makeup. I don't wear makeup, and so maybe negatively is not the right word, but the perception is people have this thing. They're putting people on pedestals.
Yes.
Because of social media.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, what you don't understand, a lot of stuff that a lot of us have on social media was gifted to us.
Yeah.
Or we were able to use it for content. We are brand ambassadors or things like that. So
yeah.
live your life according to what God has called you to live your life. Don't measure your life according to somebody's marriage.
Right.
You know, I had somebody reach out and they were just talking about one person on social media. I'm not going to say their name. It's a superstar. It's a celebrity, so it doesn't matter, but it does matter to me. They did this whole thing about their home and how lavish it was, and it was laid out, and the husband was perfect, and the child was this and all that. And then like 6 months later, she had to sell the home because with the tariffs and things, her husband's business went under or is going under or what have you. And I'm like, I can't believe they up here, call it capping. You know, up here capping and all that. Like, first of all, no, she wasn't capping. This time last year, those people that were in that business were making millions of dollars monthly because of their business. No one knew that the turn of events for our government was going to cause so many people to lose their shirt.
Right.
So that's a part of life to have to pivot. She has to pivot. Now, she did put herself out there a lot on social media. However, that was what she was paid to do.
Yeah.
How many of us have moved from one house to another because of divorce, because of changes? Like, this is regular life stuff. And so my whole point of asking this question is, or saying, don't measure yourself, because that is what's going to burn you out. It's going to cause you to get into this rabbit hole and this deep depression because you cannot keep up. You know, you see somebody arm full of urine and then you try to go out and buy urine and you can't pay your mortgage next month.
Exactly.
Calm down.
No, I think that's a really good point when you talk about social media, because one, you know, now you post reels, REEL, right? Reels versus what is real, REAL.
Yes.
And you, I mean, it just depends. What you post is what you post, but more so as a consumer is how you perceive it. Meaning, okay, this post, these people are posting this life of perfection, in which a lot of depression has skyrocketed because of social media, because of our comparison, our need to compare, or our perception of this person, that we see them out on social media. You get a lot of likes, and now it's almost like, I don't know what you call it, perhaps celebrity social media. Like, you're not really out in the public, but a lot of people know you, and so they have this perception of you. So I would say, like, as a consumer, like you said, pipe down. Like, you know, everybody is human. Not everybody's life is going to be this glammed up. I mean, people live their lives. It's an everyday life experience. It's not always about, you know, showing up in glam. I'm going to the grocery store. We all have to go to the grocery store. We're not going to the grocery store glammed up. So if you see me out, you know, hi, how are you? But it is with the other person. Like, you can't control that. But I would just say, like, as a consumer, you're in control of how you perceive someone on social media.
That's right.
And so I would say to, you know, just take a step back and, like, just remember everybody is human.
Everybody's human. Pipe down.
Pipe down. As Whitney used to say, you better lay low.
You better lay low. God rest her beautiful soul. Whitney.
She said, you better lay low. That's
right.
what she said.
Straight up. I am so honored that you sat down and talked with me. I am going to say a prayer for us and our listeners.
Yes.
And then at the conclusion of that prayer, I want you to take the time that you feel necessary to address listeners directly about anything that God has placed on their heart, with their confronting pain, grief, concerns. Tell them how they can reach out to you if needed. Because once this podcast concludes, I believe that there are going to be people that want and are ready to make a change. And I want them to know how to contact you. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yes, ma'am. God, we thank you for the gift of healing, for the courage to face what hurts, and the grace to take things one step at a time. Cover every listener who is carrying pain they've never named. Bring comfort where there is grief, calm where there is anxiety, and clarity where there is confusion. Remind us that caring for our minds and hearts actually honors you. Guide us toward wholeness, peace, and restoration. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful prayer. To anyone that is listening, I just first of all want to encourage you wherever you are in your journey. And I want you to know that if you've thought about taking the step towards seeking help, professional help, that you even considering that is a very courageous thought. And the next step is to give yourself permission to take the next step so that you can experience freedom from any type of pain, any type of brokenness in your life. That there are professionals out there, such as myself, who truly care about your change, who care about what you care about, and really care about the transformation that you want to experience in your life. So if there's anyone out there that desires that, my counseling practice is called A New Me Counseling and Consulting. And I know what it means to have the fear of wanting to embrace a new me. And sometimes you just need someone to partner with you in order to do that. So if you would like to partner with me, I love to partner with you. You can find me on my website at A New Me, DRE. It looks like Dre, anewmedre.com. Just complete the information, the form that I have, and I'll reach out to you for a free consultation before we can get started. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, reach out to me at anewmedre. That's on Instagram as well as X or Twitter, and then also TikTok. So yeah, I'd really love to connect with you.
Listeners, Dr. E reminded us today that healing is not a weakness, it's wisdom. Ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear, it just gives it permission to control us quietly. But when we choose to face what hurts, we open the door to freedom, peace, and wholeness. This conversation is an invitation, not to rush your healing, but to begin it. You deserve support, you deserve clarity, and you deserve a life that feels whole, not heavy. Thank you for joining us on Digging Deep with Dr. Christie K. Have a blessed one. Thank you so much for listening to Digging Deep with Dr. Christie K. It is my sincere prayer that something you heard today sparked clarity, encouraged your heart, and inspired you to move forward with intention. If this episode impacted you, I encourage you to like, share, and leave a review. Your engagement helps us to continue to grow and create meaningful conversations that matter. Until next time, live well, lead with purpose, and continue to dig.